Before we get into the video, I would like to thank today's video sponsor, and that is Whatnot. For those of you that are not familiar with Whatnot, it is an amazing site or mobile app where you can buy and sell all kinds of items, including Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Pokemon cards, Funkos, Magic, literally anything that you can think of. I will be live on Whatnot on Tuesday, January 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, while I am also live on YouTube doing a simultaneous Duel Links and Whatnot stream. So I will be playing Duel Links while doing some giveaways and doing some auctions for some cool stuff, and we might even be selling some new shirt designs on Tuesday night over on Whatnot, so you definitely don't want to miss that. If you don't have an account yet, use my link in the description and sign up. You'll get $15 off your first purchase at checkout, which is an awesome perk that Whatnot does. It's so cool. I'll have the stream linked in the description. Be sure to bookmark it and follow my Whatnot page if you do not already. Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush episode review. This time we will be reviewing episode 64 of Go Rush, which just so happened to be the 5th arc finale and the conclusion of the duel between Udius and Phaser. So what did I think about this episode? I thought it was a good episode. There were definitely elements of it that I really enjoyed, and there were other elements of it that didn't really hit for me, and I'll break that all down in this video. But overall, I thought this arc was very enjoyable. I think what this arc did, going back to Seven's World and tying in Go Rush and Sevens as, you know, basically the same universe here, while killing off Yuga very early on, carding Yuumu, carding Yuhi, showing us what the carded dimension looks like, at least in this world, was really, really cool. And I thought Phaser and Tremolo played really good villains. Unfortunately, that seems to be coming to an end here, and that was really the element. I guess I'll start with my dislikes. That was really the element that I wasn't the biggest fan of. Going into this duel, I kind of knew that these two were going to be redeemed, especially with how the episode summaries portrayed them. So that wasn't really an issue for me because villains get redeemed all the time in Yu-Gi-Oh! Really, outside of a lot of shows at least, the main villains, almost all of the other arc villains do get some sort of redemption. That's a very classic thing that happens in Yu-Gi-Oh! So them getting redeemed is not really the thing that I disliked. I just felt like it happened very, very quickly. And Phaser wasn't really able to talk that much in this episode because he had turned into a space dragon. So for the first 1/3 of the episode, he wasn't able to say any words. And then when he became this dragon humanoid form, which looked very unsettling is a really good word to describe it, he didn't really speak too much in terms of like banter or plot development. We really got that through Tremolo, his younger brother, who had made it to the rooftop, got out of jail, and was watching from the sidelines. So Phaser was just kind of there in this episode dueling. He wasn't really having the impact that he had last week for me, where he was taunting Udius and there was a lot of really good banter. And then when this duel comes to an end, Phaser and Tremolo start glowing. They apologize, and everything seems cool. Shubaha starts eating one of the fossils, and we learn that these space dragon fossils are in the mountains. So the theory of maybe Shubaha eating Phaser or Tremolo, which was a very dark theory because he has to eat space dragons to survive, did not obviously come to fruition here. But I just felt like the apology acceptance was very quick. The apology and the redemption scene was very, very quick at the end of this episode. And even learning about why Phaser hates aliens was interesting. Tremolo was afraid of aliens when he was young, so Phaser, because of that, swore to protect Tremolo after his parents died from aliens, and they were in Mutsuba Town very, very early on. In fact, we learned that space dragons reigned over the creation of the universe. So much like in the Zexal world, we learned about the Numeron Code, here we're learning about space dragons being the creators of the universe, or at least being the family that reigned over the creation. So that was a pretty massive, massive information line. And the space dragons were a family that ultimately welcomed aliens to Earth. They wanted aliens to go to Earth. They just didn't want to really be lonely, and they had Earth basically as this welcoming planet for any travelers out there, and that's why so many aliens were attracted to Earth and ended up landing on Earth. So, funny enough, you have two space dragons here, really one in Phaser, that hate aliens, even though his ancestors welcomed aliens, and he kind of learned that, and then he said something like, I've never been more proud to have this blood within me. So he really had a complete 180 at the end of this episode. But Tremolo was afraid of aliens when he was younger. Phaser, every time he would turn into a space dragon, would lose his memory. So it's implied that he kind of forgot why he protected Tremolo from aliens. And so that fear just kind of turned into pure hatred. And so he felt that aliens were these evil, impure creatures that were harming his brother or were going to harm his brother, when Tremolo was just scared as a youth. And I guess Tremolo didn't ever make the decision to tell Phaser that, hey, you know what, I'm not afraid of aliens anymore. We can stop this, because maybe he saw how much Phaser was into it. There's a reference to the Crane's Wife, which is a mythological story in Japan, in Japanese culture, that a lot of people don't really know the exact tie-in there, but like Tremolo Phaser, in his space dragon human form, making the scrolls out of like his own body parts or his own scales is very similar to that story, but there's a lot of inconsistencies as well. So that legendary story is kind of tied in here, which is all really interesting. It wasn't maybe the resolution that I would have liked to see necessarily. So from that perspective, the episode was just kind of okay for me. The elements of this episode that I thought were really, really good. Number one, the duel. The duel quality, especially Udius on his final turn, was insane. It is one of the craziest final turns we have ever seen in Rush Duel anime. It is right up there with Luke's turn against Gohei Yuga, and right up there with Yuga and Luke, the final turn during their episode 52 duel. I always kind of viewed those as like the two pinnacles of just crazy, crazy turns in Rush Yu-Gi-Oh! And this one is right up there. Udius summons his Odo Maximum after tributing his other Maximum off the field, which is a strategy that he did to get the win against Phaser's younger brother, Tremolo. So I really liked that tie-in there, that he actually used that strategy to beat both Ryugu brothers, so that was cool. He ends up summoning his Odo Maximum. Phaser's got his Maximum on the field. He's also got 3 face-down trap cards, and he ends up summoning a new ace monster that looked absolutely gorgeous that we had never seen before. And when I was watching, when he summoned this monster, for a brief second, I was like, oh my god, is Phaser actually going to win, or is he going to get a draw here? I thought maybe that was the direction they were going to go in. This show has always kept us on our toes, but no. Udius ends up prevailing, and he ends up getting the win over Phaser in a really, really good duel. So the duel quality this episode, super enjoyable, I thought. Another element, an aspect that I really loved, was everything with Udius. Everything with Udius, whether it was Udius and Zuijo, whether it was Udius, Yuumu, Yuhi, and Yuga. I loved the camaraderie between the Odos and Udius. There's something so cool about that, right? You have the protagonist and his family line helping from Sevens, helping the protagonist here in Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush. And I love also the connection between Yuga's first Maximum being his best friend's 3 ID cards, Roman, Luke, and Gakuto against Nail, and now Udius, one of his first Maximums, not his first, but one of his first Maximums being the 3 actually carded cards of some of his best friends, Yuhi, Yuumu, and Yuga, the 3 Odos. So that tie-in between those shows and those moments, super, super cool. The Udius Zuijo conversation was probably one of my favorite moments of the entire episode. It reminded me a lot of when Yugi felt like he was alone against his duels against like Noah Kaiba and Darts, where you have this one character just getting through to him, and that was, of course, Zuijo. And Zuijo kind of quotes everything that Udius taught him. And even though Udius felt that he was worthless, and number one, he probably does kind of blame himself subliminally for what happened to all of his friends, that all of his friends got carded, and as he said, disappeared. But number two, I also think Phaser's trash talking last week probably really did affect him in a negative way. So even though you have Udius feeling very worthless and just down on himself, Zuijo was the one that was able to kind of pull him out of that brief despair, and Udius realizes he's not alone truly when he starts drawing the Yuhi, Yuga, and Uemu ID cards, which Dormammu had snuck into his deck before the duel began. And really, Dormammu was interesting here because they had that role, but really, I kind of forgot that they were even within Udius during this entire 2-episode duel. Besides the 2 moments that they showed up, they really did kind of have a back seat, but they played a really important role in putting those cards in Udius's deck. So the dialogue even between Udius and Zuijo was really, really good. And I thought the moments with Udius and the duels were great. I wasn't, again, the biggest fan in how the Ryugu brothers arc kind of concluded here. The redemption, even the reasoning, I just personally wasn't the biggest fan of, but ultimately, good episode and really enjoyable arc. And I will say, we ended on a very weird note because we see the Relic. The Relic uncards everybody at the end of this episode. It does not card Phaser, even though Phaser lost to a maximum. So we have to imagine that that clause is now gone, and they were acting under the guidance of Phaser, which is really surprising because I thought maybe it was acting under the guidance of the creator. Maybe the creator loaned the Relic to Phaser, or maybe we just have to say the Relic has a mind and personality of its own, because at the end of this episode, we see the Relic, and we see inside the Relic, assumingly, and it's this weird, disgusting, green blob with dark purple aura around it. These are not pleasant colors. These are not good guy colors. Something evil is going on inside the Relic. Now, something I'm thinking is this going to be like an evil version of the Earth Damar? Because the early times that we saw the Earth Damar in this show, it looked kind of like this. It didn't look exactly like this, but it looked kind of like this like blobby substance that seemed to have a heartbeat. But this definitely implies that the Relic might actually be somewhat sentient and alive, which is crazy. So even though the Ryugu brothers get redeemed here within the arc, I feel like whatever this substance is, and more importantly, the creator, I feel like just like Otis at the end of Sevens, I feel like those are going to be your villains that probably will not get redeemed, and those are the big bads here in Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush. And I'll tell you something, with 3 arcs to go, if the creator is going to be the main threat in that final arc, 3 arcs assumingly it's a 2-year show, this could be the threat in the very next arc. Usually if they show you something like this, it's because it's going to be relevant in the next arc. We saw that with Nail, episode 13 of Sevens, and we saw it with Asana, episode 26 of Sevens as well. So any theories on that, I'd love to hear from you down below. Evil Earth Damar, I can kind of see them going that route. But guys, thank you all so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the 5th arc of Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush. Let me know your thoughts on the episode as well. And let me know any predictions as to where this show is going to go next. Thank you guys all so much for watching. A special thank you to my Platinum tier patrons, Goosey Q and Panther J, and to my Diamond tier patrons, Jesse Wood, Latrell Smith, and Elaine, and to my Egyptian God tier patron, Pink Penguin. Be sure to check out my Patreon for additional channel perks. Thank you to everybody who is a patron or channel member. You guys help me out tremendously. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to check out my channel for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime content, and I hope you have an amazing day.